Hello E10, how we doing? Alright, so today I just thought I'd do something different. How exciting, awesome. So I thought we'd do hot cross buns. We were supposed to be doing hot cinnamon donuts this week, however, next week we wouldn't have actually had our practical, so because it would have been on Easter Friday. So I've decided to bring that practical forward, which wouldn't have happened, to the day. So, and I wanted to excuse me, I wanted to make the hot cross buns. So what I've got in front of you is all the ingredients needed. Now look, you can try this at home if you have specific ingredients like yeast, dried yeast, okay? Everything else you possibly have on hand, spices, so cinnamon and allspice, and maybe some mixed fruit. Who doesn't love mixed fruit? And hot cross buns, amazing. Those that like the fruitless ones, each to their own, let's say that. Alright, so how we're going to start is we're going to start with obviously heating up our milk. So I've pre-done that just to save a little bit of time. Alright, I'm sure you know how to heat some milk up. So, however, for this recipe I'm actually using cashew milk because we don't have any cow's milk on hand at home. Any alternative that you like, not a problem. I'm actually using real butter, so kind of a bit silly, but if you have butter alternatives, by all means make it happen. Alright, shouldn't affect the recipe too much. Okay, I say too much because if we talk about butter alternatives like nutlegs, etc., they've got a higher water content, obviously, than actually butter, which is mostly oil with some milk solids in it. Okay, so it'll still produce a pretty good product, so you'll be cheering anyway. So what we're going to do is heat the milk up. Anyone remember what temperature? Okay, for those playing along at home, you want to heat it up to about a lukewarm temperature, like a blood temperature, so around the 38 degrees, okay. That will obviously help the yeast to grow and expand. Okay, so if it's too hot, what's going to happen? Oh, you're amazing. Yes, the yeast is going to die. So, yeah, we've got sugar here. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar into my milk mix. Beautiful. Alright, so now we've got sweet milk. Sweet cashew milk, actually. Alright, so now I'm going to add my yeast. And what I'm going to do, I'll pop that in there, give it a little stir around. I'll check the temperature. Look, if you can't stick your finger in, then it's too hot. Let's be honest, okay? But you want it nice and warm so that that yeast will actually start to activate and grow. Okay, so we're going to leave that for about 5 minutes. So you can actually see what the yeast is starting to do, starting to bubble up, starting to really activate. That's what you want. So we'll get started again. Alright, so we're smashed into it. As I said, the yeast is bubbling up nicely, looks amazing, looks raring to go. Alright, so one thing, let's just cross back to the basics at the start as well. Okay, I probably rushed into this, got really excited and keen to make this, but given the times we're in at the moment, just hand hygiene, make sure you've washed your hands properly, make sure you've cleaned down your surface as best as possible. Okay, and just try and stay on top of that. Just want to keep everyone safe, keep everyone happy, and keep making some amazing hot cross buns. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use that mix. As I said, it looks phenomenal, it looks fantastic. I'll just grab something, 1 second. Alright, so I've obviously grabbed a spatula so that I can get everything out of there. Pouring that into the bowl there. Okay, ready to go. Looks fantastic, it's nice and warm. Oh, it's loving life actually. So, one thing which will cool your dough right down and the yeast and everything in it is the addition of flour. So if you're thinking, yeah, cool, I want to give this a go and make this, it's not a bad idea. Beautiful day like today, maybe grab your flour that you need, give it a little cover with some cling wrap, whack it outside for about 20 minutes, half hour. That's gonna warm that flour up and it's gonna aid in your rising capacity of your dough. Okay, I didn't do that because I just thought, hey, let's put a video together and make this happen. So Yeah, I wasn't thinking that far ahead. Alright, so I'm going to add my flour in. Here's where we're going to add, there's 4.5 cups of flour there, so a decent amount of flour. Okay, here's where we're going to add pretty much all our ingredients. Well, not even pretty much, let's say all our ingredients. Okay, so if you're playing along at home and you have one of these, a dough hook, which attaches to one of these, a KitchenAid or similar type machine, then by all means, you can whack it in that, go nuts. Turn it up full, although I'd probably only suggest maybe halfway maximum, on half speed. Okay, so however, I'm going to go old school. I like the feel of the dough between your hands and just getting in there and making, putting some effort into something, and you feel like you really reap the rewards afterwards. So look, I've got my melted butter. Going to chuck that in. Look, may as well get my hands dirty now because I'm going to get into it. Alright, sugar, more sugar, happy days. So I will obviously post this recipe up for everyone. Hey, spices were really keen to get in there. Alright, so spices in there. Okay, so I've got an egg as well. You can mix that egg up at the start if you want. I'm going to pop it in there now. I put it right on top of my spices went everywhere, but that's alright. I'm going to pour everything out in a minute onto the bench and have some fun. Alright, so fruit, yes, with peel of course. This is probably not the most appropriate fruit because it does have some glacé cherries in it, but that's alright, that's what I had on hand. So let's be honest, you don't need to go out and grab stuff, especially given the situation. It's a little bit more difficult to get out and about and get extra ingredients for making stuff. So whatever you got on hand. Like I said, the main ingredient that hopefully people have will be yeast. But I'm not saying, you know, you need to go out and get it. Just be absorbed and absorbed in this video and enjoy the actual process of making these. It's fantastic. Watching dough rise, it's one of the beauties of cooking and baking. Can be absolutely phenomenal, wonderful thing to do. So now look, I'm starting to mix all that dough together. Alright, so trying to grab it, trying to push it together at this stage so that I can release it out onto my bench, okay? Because I don't want 100 little pieces all over my bench and trying to chase them around. It's a little bit annoying. Alright, so looking at this stage, I may need to add a little bit more liquid. Sorry, that noise is my bowl. Each time I push down, it is bending the stainless steel. Alright, so, alright, now pop that out there. Let's leave that there. Alright, so you can see, yeah, it's a little bit dry. Alright, so it's not exactly what we want at this stage. I'm going to work with it for now though, and see how we go as I start to mix it more, because at times the more you start mixing it, you're actually letting that flour get further into the mix, and the moisture starts to come out throughout the mix. So by all means, get all those bits that we so carelessly put on the bench before. And you see some little currants want to fly out, some little peel. Oh, how good's the peel? Yes. Alright, so this is where you get into it. This is a business end, alright? This is where, well, not really a business end, business end's cooking it, but this is, let's say, the engine room, there you go, of making hot cross buns. Alright, this is where you need to put some effort in, and everyone's going on about getting outdoors, doing some exercise, aren't they? It's the best way to do it right here. Arm day. Who would have thought Thursday was going to be arm day? Alright. Oh, I nearly lost that current. I don't know if you can see that right on the edge of the bench. Alright, so now what I'm doing, okay, I'm not just randomly moving my hands through the dough up and down. I'm actually trying to turn the dough as I do it, and I'm pushing down with the heel of my hand. Okay, what that does it allows me to get some good pressure into the dough, squeeze it through, and then lifting it up again, turning it, okay, pressure through again. So you can imagine one of these, happy days. However, when you're doing it by hand, I don't know, a bit more love involved. A bit more love involved in your cooking, a bit more connection with your food. Alright, anyone can pop something into a KitchenAid or whatever brand you have and turn it on. 5 minutes later, everything's done. Not everyone's going to put a lot of care and love and attention into a dough by kneading it by hand. Alright, so I might sign off here and I'll keep kneading. Alright, so after about 10 minutes of going hard on this dough, alright, everybody starts to look a little bit dishevelled, be a little bit sweaty, maybe even struggling for a bit of breath. But what your dough's going to look like is fantastic. Alright, so your dough's going to start to look nice and smooth, and feel pliable, elastic. You will note as well that when I first put this mix out onto the bench, I was like, contemplating the need for more moisture, and I said, look, you're probably not going to need it, you may be thinking you will, but start mixing that together. If you followed the recipe quantities, which I'll obviously post with this, then you should be pretty close. You should be pretty close. So persevere with it for a little bit first. As I said, you really need to mix all that flour and liquid in together. That's really going to be the way that your dough needs to happen for it to actually start to come together. So you can't mix half of it through and go, oh yeah, I need more liquid, then put more liquid in and then mixing further down the track and you got this big sticky gloopy mess. That's not what you want. Okay, so one thing about kneading as well, as we're doing it, we're creating friction through our dough. So we're actually, the process of kneading is helping to warm that dough and keep that dough nice and warm and to the temperature we want. We want the internal temperature of this dough to be nice and warm. We want that temperature to be warm enough to help that yeast activate so that when we put it in a warm spot, it's not going to suddenly cool down and just try and mostly rely on the spot that we've put it in. Okay? If we've got the internal temperature already nice and warm through friction, through kneading our dough, then we don't need to wait longer as we're trying to prove our dough. Okay? We don't need to try and get that internal temperature warm just from the outside temperature. Fantastic. So, obviously, to help warm the dough up, that's one reason for the dough. To stretch the gluten in the flour. Okay, that's what gives dough products their elasticity. That's another reason why we're kneading the dough. Now, obviously, once we do that, we need to rest our dough. Okay, because we need that gluten then to relax. If we went sweet, yeah, and didn't worry about proving this, which is obviously a major step when working with yeast, but if we thought, no worries, say for instance we're making a pastry, okay, and we don't need yeast, we don't need to prove it, but we've mixed it and we've kneaded it, and we've got this beautiful silky dough, alright, there's no point trying to roll it out then, because it'll just pull back on itself. As you can see, that's trying to do there, okay, and that's the gluten. That's the gluten saying, hang on, I'm overworked, you need to let me relax before I continue to do what I need, okay? So, that is amazing. So what you're going to grab is your bowl, okay? I'm just using the bowl from before. I gave it a quick wash out. What you can do, if you're really pedantic, you can grab some old mate fat spray, give it a little quick spray. Okay, you don't want to go nuts on that, otherwise it's just going to be too oily and greasy. But that may help you after you've given this a nice proof, this beautiful dough, nice proof, may help to release that from the bowl. So now, one thing that's good is to grab a wet tea towel, just not saturated. You want to wet that tea towel. Here's a nice clean fresh tea towel I just got. So you want to get some warm water and you want to wet that tea towel. Okay, so just gonna, excuse me, I'll move some of these ingredients, utensils even. Alright, so you want to warm that up. Fantastic. So that water's nice and warm. Look, I can hold my hand under it. That's fantastic. It's starting to get a little hot now, but that's alright. That's alright. Keep it on for a second. Alright, because obviously once you squeeze all that water out, your towel's not going to be as hot as that water initially was. So what we want to do, you want to get that nice and wet and warm, and then you're going to squeeze as much water as you can. Okay? Reason for that is you don't want to add excess dampness into your dough, but we want a nice, lovely, warm environment for our dough to rise in. Alright, so now I'm just going to put this in a warm spot. I've currently got my oven on, so it's nice and warm up above it. So I'm just going to stick it up there. Obviously the stove's not on. Okay, so I'm then going to leave it for about a good half hour. Alright, and then we'll come back and have a look how it's doing. Sweet. Alright, so while you're waiting for the lovely dough to prove and grow, there's a couple of things you can do. We can obviously get our flour and our water ready for our crosses on top of our buns. Okay, so it's just a simple flour water mix. So half a cup of flour, excuse my kids downstairs, half a cup of flour and 100 mils of water. Pretty straightforward. Now, how are we going to pipe that on? I hear you say. Alright, so piece of baking paper. All we can do is obviously make it a square, which is just simply done by folding a triangle, go figure. Alright, so then just fold up that rectangle that's sitting down the bottom, and then you can fold it back the other way too, just to make it easy. And then you can, just on the edge of your bench, or if you're a really practical person and you've got some scissors handy, use some scissors by all means. Alright, so now what we need to do is, now that you've got that, it's doubled over, so you've got a double thickness now anyway. So from, not the triangle point, but from the point opposite where the triangle is, so your midpoint of your longest line, you want to put your finger there, and then you want to roll this point around, so it kind of makes a bit of a loop and a bit of a cone. So see, I'm actually rolling that all the way around so that it sits nicely there. So once you've matched that up pretty much to the top of your triangle there, you can have a look down your cone that you've made, and you can adjust the hole at the bottom according. So by pulling this up, it'll actually reduce the size of the hole down there. So once you've got a nice small little hole, you can obviously wind that other piece around. Okay, they come to a position where you can actually staple all those pieces together. Once that's done, you have a piping nozzle. So once we mix this and the water together to make a yummy paste, you then put it in there, snip the end, where scissors will probably actually come in handy, snip the end, and then you can pipe your crosses on. So, preparation done. Alright, if we have a look at our dough here, you can have a look. Oh, look at that, it's risen up quite nicely compared to what it was. That's fantastic, that's what we want. Okay, so as you just saw, the dough's risen up nicely, looks lovely, fantastic. So what we want to do now is give it a knock back. We're going to take it out of there. Alright, that put it away. Didn't mean to. Alright, flour. So we just need some flour. What you want to do is just grab a little bit of flour and lightly put it across your bench. Okay, fantastic. Just gonna knead that dough back a little bit just to knock any excess air out of it. Okay, because we will allow for that to rise again. Okay, so now what we want to do, the easiest way, create a nice even log. Okay, and we're going to divide it up into 12 equal pieces. Okay, so I'll just move that. Just preparing that for my next stage where I'll be warming the buns themselves. Okay, so got a little bit of flour here. Okay, just going to cut that in half. Straight through, fantastic. Okay, so we want 6 pieces, trying to get even pieces. If you're really pedantic and you want to, you can weigh them out on a set of scales. I'm not that worried about it. I think I can get them close enough in size. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, and then again, try and make sure your log is pretty even. Okay, that way you're not going to have to try and compensate for the differences in the thickness there. Excellent. So 1, 2, 3, and another 3. Fantastic. So we've got 12 pieces there now. Happy days. Alright, so pop them over there. They're fine. They look amazing, mind you. Alright, so little trick we could do is push down like that with the heel of your hand and use your fingers to bring that around. Okay? And then you turn it over and you can get your hand and basically like a crab over the top, you can just roll that into a ball shape. Okay? Look at that, nice, beautiful. I'll just move that out a bit further. A nice, beautiful little bit of dough. So the purpose of the purpose of putting your palm through that is to try and stretch the top, and then you bring up those sides, turn it over, and you've stretched that top out already, top of the dough. Okay, so then you're just going to use your little crab claw, and you can see I've got it kind of on an edge there. I'm not straight over it. Like I've got my hand, the side of my hand down on the bench, but I'm guiding that dough between my fingers there. Okay, and you're creating a nice, beautiful, smooth little ball there. That's fantastic. So again, give it a nice push. Okay, and you can bring those edges up and fold it over, and then again you're going to roll that out. So obviously you need to do that for all 12. Alright, and you want to create a nice smooth looking appearance on the top there. Okay. Fantastic. You can use some of that flour. As you can see, some of the dough is coming off as I'm rolling. However, if you get too much flour on, you're not going to get too much movement as you're trying to do this, because you're trying to push the dough into the table a little bit as you're doing this with the side of your hand here, because you want that dough to grip so that it starts to roll. Okay, so slow it down a little bit, using my fingers there to just bring it around, but I'm pushing that dough in with again with the palm and the side of my hand. Okay, pushing that in and then slowly bring my hand back around. Okay, just to create that rounded action. And you get a nice little ball. It's a little bit of a skill, but just persevere and try and again get that edge of that hand down into it. And as you get better, you'll obviously go faster and produce the same product in a faster amount of time. So I'll just finish these off. Alright, then we'll go to the next step. So once you've rolled your last one out, you've got a baking tray prepared with a little bit of paper there. So you want to pop your hot cross buns nicely on that. Want them fairly close together because realistically you want them as they rise up again, so we need to do another proof. Okay, so you want them as they rise up again to help push each other up. Okay, and so obviously when they cook as well, by being so close together, you don't get all that crust on the outside of them. You get nice, beautiful softness between them because they've been protecting each other as they cook from the hotness of the outside of the oven. So once you've done that, again, let's get our warm cloth, which we used previously. Okay, so again, you want to get that temperature nice and warm. Okay, obviously you don't want to burn yourself, but you want it nice and warm because you want to help kickstart that process by having that warm damp towel over the top, and that's fantastic. So what we'll do, rinse out all that water. So this will be a little bit tricky getting off, okay, but let's just try and put it down nice and loose, okay, to allow for those buns to rise. Now, what I've, again, like I said to you before, I turned my oven on, and using the, I had it on top of the stove before, but I've opened the grill and I've started to use the grill section in there. So right now I'm going to pop that tray in there. I'm going to put a towel underneath to protect the bottom of the hot cross buns from any direct heat, so it's got a little bit of a insulator in between the heat, and then so we'll let that prove again a good half hour again. Look, to be honest, the first proof is generally your longest and your biggest, so that was probably close to about an hour that I proved that for. So depending on your temperature, it can go up to an hour and a half. So, but we're going to pop those in, prove them. When they've proved a decent amount, I'm going to pull them out again, which I'll show you, and I'm going to put the cross on top, and then boom, they go in the oven, and then it's not very long till Easter goodness comes out. Alright, so now that our hot cross buns are almost proved, we're going to make up our little flour mix, which is just kind of quite simple really. It's just our flour and water. Just going to mix that together, try and get rid of all the lumps. Probably could have chosen a larger bowl, let's be honest, but you see it's starting to come together. Fantastic. It's, really want a nice just paste consistency, and that's obviously what's going to go into our piping bag. Alright, let's add a bit more water. There's all our water there. Let's see, hopefully that should give us a good paste. Alright, I might add a little bit more water because as you can see that's quite thick still. You might just need to play around with that. I'll show you the consistency you want. obviously it needs to be able to be piped, however you don't want it so runny that it just falls off and doesn't make the crosses on top of our buns. Okay, so a little bit more. Oh, now I've just made a mess. It's alright. That was my fault for choosing such a small bowl. Alright, so if we have a look at that, that's going to be a good consistency there. It's sort of dropping nicely. However, that is definitely not too runny. So you think as we squeeze that out, it's going to hold up nicely and be give us that nice cross on our buns. So I'm just going to, here's the piping bag we made up earlier. Just trimming that base so that you get a decent hole at the bottom. Okay, you obviously don't want it too thin that the cross won't even pipe out. So you want a decent circle there, so that you're actually getting a decent cross, decent width on your cross on your bun. All right. So while I was waiting for that to prove, I put some sugar and water together. I've just heated that, boiled it for about 2 minutes max. I could probably add a little bit more liquid. As you can, I don't know if you can see, but it is quite the sticky little substance there. So that is to go over the top of our hot cross buns once they're baked. So I've just got that there, just going to keep that warm. Alright, so I'm just going to grab out our buns, and what you want to have achieved by proving them this time, alright, is that they have hopefully proved by about 75%. So you don't want them to double in size, but you want them to obviously look fuller, larger, and quite tasty really. So you can see, ooh, almost. So you can see they definitely have improved in size. Now last step is for us to put the crosses on, and then from there straight into the oven, 180 degrees. Okay, so let's give this a go. This is not the easiest job. Can be a little messy, depending how well you do it and how well you can pipe it out. So what you need, obviously, is the piping bag we made up. Don't overfill it, otherwise it'll start to come out like mine wants to. Okay, you're going to squeeze up the top end, and you're going to use your fingers and your palm to squeeze out your little cross shape. And you want to follow the curve of the bun. Okay, otherwise you're going to be in all sorts of trouble. It needs to come into contact with the bun. If it's not, it's just going to come off. Okay, so following that, fantastic. Look at this, it's coming out fantastic. Excellent. And then obviously going back over the other way. Hopefully I've got enough in the bag that I don't have to refill the bag, because that's when the job gets really messy. Looking good. Fantastic. I think I scraped the bottom of the barrel there of the bag. I only had about that much left. That's what you want though. Excellent. Okay, so, yep, a bit messy, let's be honest. Okay, hopefully you don't get much messier than that. Alright, so now, about 20-25 minutes, 180 degrees, and then it's the enjoy time. So straight in the oven. Alright. Excellent. Okay, so it smells amazing in here, let's be honest. Who doesn't like the smell of hot cross buns? If my neighbours were allowed to come over, I'm sure they'd be here already. So I have just reheated my glaze, so because that's going to go over the top of my hot cross buns. I will grab out a board. Fantastic. Jump down here. Oh, look at these. Oh my goodness. My kids have been champing at the bit to get into these. Now look at that. So you've got your hot cross buns. Fantastic. Alright, if you do have a pastry brush, this is a perfect opportunity to use that with your glaze. Okay, now what you can do with your glaze is you can, if you want, you could just use some jam and just melt that down with water. I didn't have any jam in the cupboard, so I just got a bit of sugar and water and just putting a bit of that over the top. That gives you the beautiful glossy look that you always get on those hot cross buns. A little bit extra sweetness, but let's be honest, they probably don't need it, but hey, it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Alright, fantastic. So, alright, so once kids are going nuts because they're getting pretty crazy and keen to try some of these. So, once you have glazed it all, you are pretty much ready to go. Alright, just about there. Just if you are using sugar and water, just be careful that you don't crystallise that sugar. Okay, that can happen if you start stirring profusely, trying to mix it and trying to make that sugar dissolve itself. Okay, it will eventually do it. So just let the sugar do its own thing. All right, so fantastic. You can see there. You can see there. Happy days. Excellent. I will let my kids try and see what they think. Alright, so the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? Alright, so guys, let's just focus in. So proof's in the pudding. You guys want to taste some?
Yeah.
Have a try. Tell me what you think. You want a piece?
I got the biggest piece.
You got the biggest piece, did you? How are they? Yeah? Thumbs up? Oh, thumbs up, Neve. Excellent. There you go. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Just a little long process, but yeah, pretty fun and worthwhile process. Awesome. Thank you.